Before I begin, let me just say that this video is not going to include any manga exclusives, so if you're watching this and only follow the anime, then you won't have to worry about spoilers unlike pretty much all my other videos. Alright, with that cleared up, let's get into today's topic. Anime versus manga. So the manga and the anime of Fairy Tail are very different. The plot is the same, but apart from that there are some very noticeable differences if you've done both reading and watching. If you only watch the anime, you may or may not know about the differences, so I thought I'd kinda compare the two, and it's not going to be a very objective. I am a manga reader as well as an anime watcher, but I do favor manga, so expect some biased opinions and potentially me trying my best to convert whoever may be an anime only to become a manga reader. So let's start with the manga of Fairy Tail. Like everything else in this world we live in, it's not perfect, but it's not far off, at least for me. So I'm going to list upsides as well as downsides with the manga of Fairy Tail. Okay, so upsides. Well, to start things off, the art style is unreal. It looks absolutely beautiful, it's very rich on details despite being a more cartoony styled manga as opposed to the more realistic type that you can see in some other series like Attack on Titan, where proportions are absolutely on point. In Fairy Tail, they're not. Now this isn't actually any different from the anime except for a few minor details, but I'll get to that later. If you were to actually compare anime and manga side by side, you'd see some major differences like Natsu's flames for instance. The manga does a much better job when it comes to his fire magic. It looks a lot more powerful and deadly than in the anime. Also, by reading the manga of Fairy Tail, you actually won't run into problems like having a 1-year break and no more Fairy Tail until it picks up again. The manga continues regardless. There are manga series that do have breaks, but Fairy Tail isn't one of them. There are, of course, sometimes holidays in Japan, which ends up postponing the manga to the week after, but this is more or less the only reason why a chapter in Fairy Tail wouldn't release 1 week after the previous one. Okay, so now that I've talked about the goodies with the manga, let's find some baddies as well. Right away, let me just tell you that at least for me, pictures is nice and all, but you don't really get to see any coloring unless someone does fan art of it. And while I don't mind pictures and speech bubbles, having it animated feels a lot smoother in that sense, and this makes the manga slower paced, which can be fine depending on what's going on. Sometimes it's great, sometimes you just want to go into hibernation while waiting for something big to go down. Well then, let's go straight to the ups and downs about the anime instead of the manga of Fairy Tail. The biggest thing about the anime, at least for me, that makes it really enjoyable is the fact that it's animated and not still pictures. This is especially great when you've read the manga of the same arc and you get a real feel for what the environment really looks like, as well as the fact that the fights are gorgeous. Even if some of them are very short-lived in the anime because of the fact that the anime episodes don't equal a manga chapter, they'll put chapters together to make it a better experience, as well as the fact that the episodes have to be 20 minutes long, of course. Another really good thing about the anime, and this is possibly my favorite upside about the anime, and that's the soundtracks that Fairy Tail has. Some people are very conservative and will hate on all the new soundtracks because they're not the same as the first season of Fairy Tail, but I always end up loving the new soundtracks that Yasuharu Takanashi releases. Much like with all anime, it gives more life to a scene, I think, to have a fitting soundtrack depending on if the moment is emotional or if there's a moment of suspense or anything else. A soundtrack really does add a lot to a scene, and this is something the manga really does lack, unfortunately. So what's bad about the anime? Well, this is where things may get opinion based, meaning I'm sure even other manga readers would disagree with me. Okay, so the biggest fuck up the anime does, and this is intentional in some shape or form, and that's changing some crucial moments in the series. My biggest hate when it comes to anime adaptation in Fairy Tail was when Grey learned Devil Slayer magic actually from his father and returned to the others. In the anime, he arrives just in time to freeze the anti-magic particles that Tempester released before dying or whatever. However, in the manga it is very different. For starters, Loxus didn't even make an appearance in the manga, but that's not really so bad. What's really bad is how in the manga, Grey arrives with Tempester alive and well, and so Grey pretty much annihilates Tempester. And this is done to truly show the extent of Grey's new magic before he goes to pursue Mardgear. So as I said earlier, the art style is cartoony, but what the anime did that may upset some people, but I can't really say it affected me much, and that's when they changed the art style between season 1 and 2 Now I prefer season 2 art style because it looks more like the manga, but yeah, it would have been nice if they had tried to keep it similar all the way through. Another thing with the anime that I don't really like, but it's not something I would by any means consider Fairy Tail exclusive, and that's the fact that because of the fact that Fairy Tail is a pretty big show, the production value per episode is pretty low if you compare it to anime series with 12 or 24 episodes. So some of the detail-rich scenes that the manga provide are made to look comparatively shit. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, the anime has a tendency to catch up to the manga too fast and is forced to go on a break. Okay, so now that I've mentioned all the ups and downs of the anime, let's talk about fillers just briefly. So fillers. Episodes, entire arcs, or even just moments within episodes that don't belong, meaning that it didn't exist in the manga, like the Luxus moment I mentioned above in the Tartarus arc. Luxus wasn't supposed to be there, and then there are of course arcs like the Eclipse one, before the Sun Village arc, and a few others. Now I don't actually mind filler arcs, I'll be honest, as long as it's just one arc and doesn't last for a year like in Naruto. I'd rather have that than changing canon material from the manga. Well, I'm gonna end the video right here. Let me know down in the comments below what you think. Do you prefer the anime or the manga, or do you like both equally? And as always, if you did, please like this video if you enjoyed and subscribe if you're new to my channel. See ya soon.